Hello guys, welcome back to the next tutorial. In this one we're going to talk about an inbuilt function provided by Python and the name is range. So let's just quickly open PyCharm and see how it works. So as I mentioned, it's a built-in function. What it does is it helps us to create a sequence of numbers, and there's a best part about it. The best part is it doesn't save them in memory, so it just we can use them for any operation, but it doesn't save them in memory, so that there is no load and there's no memory consumption on our computer. So it's really great when we have to generate numbers, and maybe when lots of them, like millions and billions. If you just generate a list of numbers and save them in a list, your computers might just run out of CPU usage and memory and all those things. But with this range function, because we're not generating a list, it's just a sequence of number on the fly, and it flushes them out as soon as they're done, so it doesn't occupy memory. So it's really great for generating numbers. So this is a kind of a difference between Python 2 and Python 3. If you guys are wondering about Python 2, previous range function used to save them in the list, but in Python 3 they have removed it. But in Python 2 as well, there was another function called xrange, which used to do the same thing which range does in Python 3. So let's see what it does. So what happens is, if I just print range from, so it takes kind of two parameters. First of all, it takes more than two, but let's just take a look at two. So the first one is the starting point, where we want to start the generation of the numbers, and the second one is the ending point, where we want to end the generation of the numbers. And as kind of common thing, right, the last one is not inclusive. The number 10, the end number, it's exclusive, so it's going to generate the numbers from 0 to 9. So if I run this code right now, so what happens is, right now it just shows you range 0 to 10, because it just generates the number, but it doesn't show them. It doesn't it doesn't save them in the memory, right? So there's an alternative to actually see these things. What we can do is we can typecast this thing into a list, right? So the way we cast things, the numbers in a string and all those things, so because we know it's going to generate a sequence of numbers, we can cast it into a list and then run the code. So if I run the code now, I should see the list of numbers, which is 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, right? So it generated a sequence of numbers from 0 to 9 inclusive, but 10 not inclusive, right? So ending number is not inclusive. So to show that, we had to cast it into a list, otherwise it was not showing it, right? So let's actually do this. If I save this range and to 0 to maybe 10 again, and print this again, just to describe this, I'm doing the same thing. If I do this, it's gonna show me the range. So it just shows you the type and what it did. And what I can do is I can find the type of A, because I assigned this thing to A, right? So if I find the type of A and try to print this, so it's gonna show me the type of A, and the type is class range. So it's a type, the range is the class, right, which is the built-in function. So that's what it does. And then if I want to kind of print the actual numbers, what I can do is I can cast the A and then into the list and then print it. So I'm just gonna get again the same thing. Similarly, if I want to get the different range, what I can do is I can start from maybe 12, and I can go till maybe 100, right, something like that. And then if I run it, I'm gonna get this starting from 12 up to 100, right, up to 99 basically, because 100 is not inclusive. So it's really helpful when we want to generate a sequence of numbers, and we can put any starting point and ending point like that. It's really helpful. If you guys notice the screen right now, there's a kind of a help which showed up as a tooltip which says start, stop. So stop by default is none, and step by default it's none. So let me first talk about just the start and stop a little bit. So if I put, there's no start if I put, right? So if I just put range equals to 100, or maybe just reduce it so we can see everything. So let's see what's gonna happen. It's gonna put all the numbers from 0 to 9. So let's change it from the top one. Let's put it as 20. So it's gonna generate the numbers from 0 to 19, basically 20 not inclusive, right? So what it tells us, it tells us that 0 is the default. If I want to start from some other place, then I can put the start. I don't have to put 0 if I want to start from 0. So if I start from 10 to 20, I can do this thing. Then there's a step thing. What it means is by default the step is 1, and if I put step as 2, let's see what it's gonna generate. So this time it generated in the steps of 2, which means all the events starting from 10, right? So 10, 12, 14, 16 and 18. It didn't get to 19 because after 18 the step is 20 and 20 is not inclusive. So if I put, let's say, starting from 0, if I put 20 and then step of 3, it's gonna do 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. I can do a step of 4, basically 0, 4, 8, 12, 16, a lot of them, right? I can do a step of 6, which is gonna be much less, 0, 6, 12, 18. So it's really a very important and very useful function to generate a kind of a numbers, sequence of numbers, and then utilize them. So it's really helpful. Because of this, there is a very important use case for this. What we can do is we can utilize this thing in for loops. So what we can do is let's say we have a list, right? Let's say we have a list, and the list is maybe 1, 2, 3, and we want to do for num in L. If I want to print the num, what it does. So let me just remove this first one because we don't care about the first one, right? We are already doing it here and saving it in A, and now run the code. So what it's doing is it's printing 1, 2, 3, right? So similarly, if I don't want to create a list and I just want to loop something 3 times, what I can do is I can just do range and do 3. So if I do this, so just notice that I'm not using this list at all, right? I'm not using this list at all, and I'm just running the num. So I'm gonna get the same thing. I start from 0 basically because the list was 1, 2, 3. I can do something like that. I can do something like this, 1, 2, and then 4 if I want the same output. So it's gonna do 1, 2, 3. So basically we can just use this function to quickly do something, and we can loop over stuff, and we wanna do something maybe twice, we wanna do something 10 times. I can just use the range function and do stuff in the for loop. Or if I wanna put some steps that I want to do something at the intervals of 2, I can put the step up here, right? I can do the steps here. So there's a lot of use case. It's really very helpful in lists as well. So it is really gonna be an interesting thing. So that's what I'm gonna do, guys. Just this is kind of a quite a good demo that I've showed you about the range function, what is that and how we can utilize that in list. So what I'm gonna say is download this code, use it for your reference, and try to play around with this range function, and let me know if you have any questions. So stay tuned for the next lectures, guys, and thanks for running this one. Thanks, guys.